Hello, my name is David Forsström and I'm a Swedish gambling researcher. My main research area is the use and effect of responsible gambling measures, and in particular, responsible gambling tools. And I'll start off my presentation by just talking a little bit about the meaning of innovation. It comes from the Latin verb innovare, and the definition that I've chosen to focus on, because the word has many definitions, is renewal. So innovation, to innovate, what I've focused on is the meaning renewal. And adding to this, renewal means assembling existing parts in a new way. So in this presentation, I've tried to combine and analyze data in sort of a new innovative way to try to point to future demands in the field of responsible gambling research. And to be able to do that, that will need more collaboration between researchers and the gambling industry. And I'll just give you a brief background before I explain what I've done. So studies have shown that responsible gambling measures have an effect on a group level. Examples are the study by Auer and Griffiths from 2015. They've looked at Mentor, and the study by Wood and Wall that have looked at Playscan. These studies were done on a group level, and if we move on, studies by Johnson et al. Have shown that the meaning of personal communication via telephone or letter to change gambling habits in a substantial way. So there are studies on a group level that shows that interventions aimed towards online gambling can decrease gambling habits. And more studies are also needed on a group level to see general tendencies to understand what effect responsible gambling measures and responsible gambling tools can have on gambling behavior. However, I would like to argue that other types of studies are also needed to address issues in gambling and gambling research, and that would need new ways of working and to combine ways of working. And a recent study by Johnson et al. Showed the meaning of looking at subgroups to understand how to make responsible gambling measures more effective. And that's sort of my starting point, because I have prepared 3 short cases to illustrate the need for innovative studies looking at gamblers on a subgroup level. And I've used different levels of data, and I've used already existing data and published studies and results to sort of change the perspective from a group level to a subgroup levels. And also, as I said, what consequences does this have for future collaboration between the gambling industry and researchers? And if we start off with the first case, previously this year I published an article that found that short-term use of Playscan did not change the amount lost for the gamblers that were included in the study. However, if you look at the individual trajectories before and after using Playscan, you get a slightly different picture, and I'll change slide to show you what I mean. Here are pre and post-use loss after using Playscan for a short period of time. So to the left we have high-risk gamblers, and to the right we have low-risk gamblers. And you could see that the majority of the users or the gamblers have this sort of same patterns of change. However, we have a few individuals that have gone from a a large amount of loss and have decreased their gambling in a substantial way. But we also have gamblers that have started off gambling just gambling for a little bit of money to increasing their loss in a substantial way. And I believe that it's important to focus on the individuals that have increased their loss or decreased their loss as a result of their use of Playscan. And it's therefore important to investigate how subgroups of gamblers use responsible gambling measures in order to understand not only the general tendency, but also the individuals that break the pattern and start to gamble in a different way. And if we move on to case number 2, this is data from a study that's been submitted. And we looked at comments and ratings that gamblers did after they received a risk assessment that's a part of the responsible gambling tool Playscan. Most of the users agreed with their risk rating and thought that Playscan was a good tool and left written answers saying that it was beneficial for them or they could use the information given. However, we found that some of the gamblers expressed a negative view or wrote a negative review of the risk assessment, and that was linked to disagreement with the result of the assessment. So they did not agree with their risk rating and therefore had a negative view of both Playscan and risk assessment, which could inhibit future use. And one important aspect when it comes to this study is that some individuals gave a plausible explanation for the disagreement. So some users said that, well, there are several people that use one account and therefore the risk rating is not correct because the numbers that I've lost doesn't only sort of it's not only my loss but several individuals that have lost money, so it's not a correct assessment of my gambling. However, other people did not have an explanation but just disagreed with the risk assessment and therefore had a negative view of Playscan. And previously, studies on customer communication have provided valuable insights on how gamblers behave when they disagree with how their gambling is going at an online gambling site. And again, if we would look at a subgroup that had a disagreement with the risk assessment, this could be one way of understanding how we could increase use of responsible gambling tools and also perhaps increase the effect of them. But also that there's a need to facilitate learning among gamblers when it comes to understanding responsible gambling and feedback that's given. If we look at case number 3, I've combined research to address what I see as an emerging problem. My starting point for this is that there's been an increase in gambling problems for women between the ages of 45 to 64. And this is a result from the Swedish longitudinal gambling study. So this is sort of a problem that's emerging in Sweden. So women in this age bracket are experiencing more problem gambling. At the same time, me and some colleagues at the Department of Public Health Sciences at Stockholm University found that women between the age of 40 to 59 have committed all of the crimes committed by women due to gambling problems between the year 2014 to 2018. And this is a manuscript in preparation that will hopefully be submitted soon. And I believe that researchers and gambling companies could address this problem and collaborate on studies that could have great impact if we use this type of data to investigate certain subgroups that might be at risk and where we can see that we have an emerging problem and try to address a problem that is on the rise. So what I've tried to do is to show that existing data sets and research highlight the need for subgroup analysis and using new data sets for new types of research questions in order to understand gamblers that deviate from the general tendencies on a group level, and also to try to use published results and studies to try to see what tendencies can we find when it comes to subgroups that are vulnerable, and what can we do to help them in the best way. This in turn makes it important to be able to acquire more specific data from gambling companies to be able to pose what I've labeled as subsample-based questions. There might also be a need to track individuals over time, which could have legal and ethical implications both for researchers and for gambling companies. And there's also a need to investigate how gamblers feel about being a part of smaller studies or being tracked in real time by researchers and gambling companies. On a group level, this is not a major problem because individual data sort of gets lost in the amount of data, but are we to follow individuals or smaller samples, this needs to be researched as well, and perhaps gamblers needs to be asked about participating in these types of studies. So in my final slide, I would just like to summarize what I think would be a way forward, and that is that on one hand, researchers need to find what the research purpose is in a more comprehensive way after re-examining data that's been used on a group level. Also, gambling companies needs to help with data extraction because subgroup studies means more specialized data. And one sort of idea that I had while preparing this presentation was that you could have forums where researchers and gambling companies could discuss important issues to address, as with case number 3, where we could see that women are experiencing higher degrees of problem gambling, and that this age group, women between 40 to 65, are committing most of the crimes due to problem gambling for women. And that would also mean that gambling companies and researchers could work together to confront problems that arise due to problem gambling, which in turn would decrease harm in the long run. That was my last slide, so thank you for joining my breakout session. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. And again, thank you for listening.